What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's been coming out about the company itself, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So Lucid did manage to close in the green, 1.99%, had a lot of good momentum. So it had around $3.78 the high. It bounced off of that twice, so that's a very strong resistance point. Whenever it usually bounces off of that, consolidates, it will try again. So depending on CPI data, which is coming out tomorrow, you could see this area retested. But again, I'm going to go over technicals and everything else that you need to know. So there's a couple of things that did come out recently, today, that was negative. And normally in the past, that would really affect Lucid stock price pretty significantly. So this is why I do know this momentum right now with Lucid is the real deal. So I'm going to go over those two things, but once again, it didn't really affect Lucid stock price. So that does really validate that the market wants to take Lucid higher. But starting off, there was this. So Tesla once again is kind of cutting its prices. And whenever they cut prices, that's just to fill a demand gap, right? So of course, whenever something happens to Tesla, good, the bad, and the ugly, does trickle down to other EVs, especially when it comes down to the word demand. That usually is more of a PTSD thing for Lucid. So whenever that is brought up, Lucid stock price tends to fall. But this did absolutely nothing for Lucid stock price. Definitely did affect Tesla stock price. And aside from that, this came out. So Fed's probing Lucid Software Fix for defroster recall. Even though this isn't that big of a deal, typically this would cause a lot more volatility and usually cause Lucid to go down. But then again, like I said, both of these did absolutely nothing for Lucid stock price. And even behind the scenes, shorts that have been completely plaguing Lucid for a while, they felt it justified to return 510,000 shares today. 30.23% of the free float is being shorted, so it is breaking off of that all-time high, I believe, of 31.7%. So generally, that's kind of a good thing. Like I said, though, a lot of big money is probably waiting on the sidelines for CPI data to come out tomorrow. So if CPI is negative, most likely shorts will jump all over Lucid once again. But if CPI is positive, then you are going to see a very big FOMO rally in the broader market, and that'll obviously in turn cause Lucid to go up. But 267.6 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow average is 29.82%. So fairly good stuff. Today, there was actually no news from Lucid, no SEC filings, nothing along those lines. They did tweet and probably put on some other social medias about their collaboration with Saks. I did actually tweet and respond, and I just said that you're kind of delayed, like that came out last week. Still though, I guess A for effort, if that counts for anything. But other than that though, no news, no anything like that. Options are looking a little bit more optimistic. So based on today, $1.44 million in calls being purchased versus 1.78 million in puts, and 42% of all the options being done today were bearish. Clearly, a lot of people were neutral, so that means they're just collecting premiums, so not really any big direction. They're just taking advantage of the volatility with Lucid. As I've said in the past, volatility and options go hand in hand. They are best friends. So if you guys don't know options, highly suggest in researching them as well. I'm not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence. Of the call options that were being purchased though, there's a consensus for it to be above $4, and then vice versa. Looking at the puts, there is a consensus for it to be sub $3.50. So given that we are now at $3.58, the risk versus reward is definitely there. And that's something that I did bring up over the last couple of videos as well. So that is kind of a good thing. So moving on though, looking at this. So with it at $3.59, it is trading between this pivot and the R1. And there was so much momentum today, it did bounce off of this R2 twice. So like I said, consolidation, that's what happened today. And most likely going into tomorrow, you will have this retested. Again, a caveat dependent on CPI data. But no matter what though, I feel like if data is good, then you are going to see a test of this R3 or potentially even higher than that. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with Lucid? But over and above that though, These are some of the transactions that have occurred today on the secondary market above $100,000. Based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price, all of them were buys, but still in comparison to the last couple days, a little bit low for the volume, like I mentioned at the very beginning though. So clearly big money is just waiting for data to come out. So once it does get the rubber stamp that it can go higher, this is where you're going to see a rush of value investors getting into Lucid. My own opinion, of course. Looking at Lucid though, number of retail investors were slightly getting out, and you can tell that based on the momentum indicator, maybe last minute jitters potentially. Stochastic is currently at 74, and despite it being overbought somewhat, you do see a nice deviation, so black line above the red showing a bullish sentiment. So if it does continue on, if it does touch potentially around the $4 range, this is where you'll get overbought and it will need to consolidate as a result of that. But still, no matter what though, I feel like that is still healthy for the long-term aspects of the technicals and everything else. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? What did you do? Have you been doing options? Like, what's your thoughts? And one final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo. So even though Lucid goes up, down, sideways, very volatile, just take advantage and get some free shares. Simply sign up for an account with 𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗛, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.